Are you searching for the best in online black radio? Then go to blacktalkradionetwork.com, helping you filter through the noise. Real talk, black talk.
The internet is full of half-truths and all-out lies. We've all seen them, and many people on social media complaining about it. Here's your chance to show and prove. WorldAfropedia.com is a black-owned and operated encyclopedia. There are several thousand articles, but we need help. We can't uncover all the truth ourselves. So please, join us and become a writer, editor, or blogger for WorldAfropedia.com today. Every little bit counts. We owe it to the future generations to put the truth out there. Visit WorldAfropedia.com, the African-centered encyclopedia, a global database of African knowledge for the purpose of bringing about global African wisdom and understanding. WorldAfropedia.com.
Context of White Supremacy. It seems Olivia, she's experiencing, and I mean this goes on for a long time, of these white people on her job making comments. At one point they moved the offices so that Olivia's office is on the first floor. All the other white employees' office is on the second floor. I mean, if you want a real clear illustration of white over non-white, there you go. Yeah. Just can you kind of, I guess, your perspective, being a black male, being a husband, you want to be supportive, and your wife is coming home wrecked daily. Can you believe what she said here? Can you believe what they did here? They're not giving me the training that I need to do my job well. I'm having a group of people work against me every day on my job. Yeah. What were your thoughts as a husband going through this?
Gus, over here, when we were growing up, there used to be a program on TV called Upstairs, Downstairs. It was set around the early 19th century, and basically what you had was the upper class, the living upstairs, the masters, and downstairs were the servants. And so the program was called Upstairs, Downstairs because it showed both groups. And so in a sense, you had a picture of both worlds, the rich, the aristocracy at the time, and then you have the servants and in their quarters. And when Olivia explained to me what was going on, that's the first thing we discussed, that it sounded as if it was upstairs, downstairs, the masters upstairs and the servants downstairs. So that's what hit me initially.
Wow. I know so many people can relate to being in a situation where they're experiencing racism on the job and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to deal with it. I just want to make sure I share more on this because I know there are tons of people who can relate to both of your positions, trying to support a partner who's experiencing all this racism on the job and just trying to do the best that they can to help that person, and being the person on the job experiencing the racism. In my opinion, Olivia, she shares just some incredible insight, just on how much damage this sort of thing can do to you on all levels, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, just feeling like you don't have help, you don't have support, you have nobody on your job who's concerned about you. Yeah. I wanted to read a little bit from the book, if that's all right with you, to convey.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, and then I'll get your comments as well. This is on page 330, where I want to read actually a couple pages, if that's all right, and then I'll be quiet to get some more of your feedback. Okay, so this is page 330. This is the chapter 14, Crash and Burn, where at this point we've been going through months and months of abuse and neglect, racist treatment on the job. Olivia writes, how had this happened? I asked myself, what had changed in a few years to bring me so thoroughly to my knees? I hadn't been kidnapped or displaced. I wasn't being denied food or drink. I wasn't being physically beaten. My circle of supportive friends hadn't changed. No one had been ripped out of my life. There had been no such trauma. Yet still things had deteriorated to the point that I was unable to leave the house. I couldn't be around people without being drawn back to my bedroom, my sanctuary. I was spending hours crying every day. Anything would set me off. Crying until my strength left me. Grieving as if somebody died. Falling asleep, hardly able to breathe from the congestion in my nasal passage, only to wake up after scarcely any time at all to cry again. Although much of my life remained the same, something had changed. As far as I was concerned, I was working for a racist organization. The single factor was like a malignant cell that had taken over every other element of my being. It felt as if I was being hollowed out from the inside. I had underestimated the effects of working in an institutionally racist organization. If you have any sense that human beings are more than flesh and bone, you can feel the oppression that comes from being in a place where you're not wanted. Even if you never hear a word spoken to confirm it, you know. It can be unbearable living in a house with one person who wishes you would leave. Multiply that by 20 or 30,000 people wishing the same, and you get a sense of what it's like working for the prison service. Unbeknown to me, I had spent months walking through corridors where only moments before an officer or manager had been breathing out of his or her irritation with my presence, and others like me. I walked through the mists of resentment they had left hanging in the air. Discussions about my competence and suitability hung in the atmosphere like vapor for me to breathe in. I filled my lungs. Comments like, "It's not that she's unintelligent. It's her attitude I object to. The way she swans around as if she's better than anyone else," were clandestinely shared. An advisor from my team once said with resentment, "Oh, Olivia, you always look so glamorous. It makes the rest of us feel like tramps." And that was to my face. What was she saying out of earshot? I had been breathing in these noxious fumes of non-acceptance and negativity towards black people for the last few years, and it had finally made me very sick. I continued to stare at myself in the mirror, the tears streaming down, and uncontrollable sobs and convulsions, and the toothpaste foaming at the corners of my mouth. What a mournful sight. I cleaned myself up and went to the study. I phoned my doctor for an emergency appointment. They gave me the next slot, which was 30 minutes away. I drove myself to the surgery. I want to stop right there to get some of your comments just about what a traumatic impact all of this can have on someone, particularly when they're confused and they're not really sure that it's racism that's the problem.
Well, Gus, you read out one of the most saddest and the most traumatic times of our life right there, and memories just came flashing back. But if I take you back to what you started off with on page 329, basically Libya saying I hadn't been kidnapped or displaced, I wasn't being denied food or drink, I wasn't being physically beaten, my circle of supportive friends hadn't changed, and so on. And when you think about it, back in the slavery days, that's how they kept you controlled. They beat you. What they did in slavery days was to physically oppress you. They put shackles on you, around your neck, around your feet, around your hands. You were bound. And what's happening now is a change of tack, where they're not shackling your hands, your feet, and your neck any longer. What they're doing is shackling your mindset, shackling your physicality, your psychology, and your heart. That's what's being bound. After they affect your mind, after they affect your psychology, after they affect or your psyche, after they affect your heart, you become enchained. You become chained and shackled and oppressed and depressed in your own body. So you do feel like a prisoner walking around your own little room. And so, that's what Olivia was experiencing all through this time. She goes on to say, I understand or underestimated the effects of working in an institutionally racist organization. And I believe that many of us, we underestimate the environment that we work in and how it affects us physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And so when you find yourself in that environment for the first time without any experience or support, you do feel like you're alone. You feel like you haven't got a voice, and you feel like you're in a situation where you just cannot breathe. And so you struggle for air. You struggle to survive. And therefore, that's why a lot of people lash out, because they're struggling just to live. And so when a black man raises their voice or expresses themselves, out of desperation, we're penalized for saying we have a chip on our shoulder, we are aggressive, and we are violent. But all we're doing is just trying to survive. And Livy goes on to say it can be unbearable living in a house with one person who wishes you would leave. Multiply that by 20 or 30,000 people wishing the same, and you get a sense of what it's like working for the prison service. And for many of us, perhaps we haven't experienced this as yet, but can you imagine being in an environment where everyone just wants you to go? Or in fact, to some degree, they overlook you for promotion. They overlook you for an office or even stationery. They overlook you for even conversations. So you become invisible and you become hated, not for the work, not for your work ethics, but because of where you've come from, because of the color of your skin.
And because I'm black.
Context of White Supremacy. Gus T Renegade in for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the system of white supremacy. Today's date, Thursday, June 22nd, 2017. So I have been told this, that you get looked over for stationery. I can't even get a piece of paper in the office area. This is our weekly forum on workplace racism. Number one, if you have figured out any tips, suggestions, recommendations that work well for black people, non-white people in general, to use on the job so they can get their stationery, other office supplies, don't get overlooked, get all your promotions, get your raises, get the cool office or transfer or whatever you need to improve your time at the job and bolster your career, so that you get all that good stuff, get to keep your job as long as you want it till you're ready to retire. You should be one of the first to dial in with neatly codified suggestions on how to achieve all of those good things and avoid all of the nastiness, the write-ups, the accusations that you're aloof or you don't talk enough, you're not a team player, and everything else that they do to racists on the job, that they do to black people on the job. The number to dial, 641-715-3640. The code 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Number again, 641-715-3640. The code 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. The sound clip we heard at the beginning of the program, we have been here 8+ years, 1,500 plus programs. The archives are immense. They are at iTunes. They should be in a variety of different spots. Mr. Fox, also in the UK, has uploaded a lot of the content to YouTube. Lots of different places where you can go back and dig through the catacombs of C.O.W.S content. But August 2011, Mr. Rudy Ebanks was a guest on the program. We discussed the book Almost British, doing double duty. Number one, racism, white supremacy is a global problem, and black people around the world are being terrorized at work. The book was actually not written by Rudy Ebanks. The author of Almost British is Olivia Ebanks. That broadcast from August 2011, important for so many reasons. The first of which if you want a scavenger hunt, if we have any listeners out there, you like finding, good counter-racist literature, right? The passage that you got to hear from the book, if that sounded appealing, see if you can find a copy of Almost British. White people snatched that book out of publication. In fact, her husband was a guest on the C.O.W.S because white people wouldn't even allow her to talk about the book, much less sell it or anything else. And she had went to the white people on her job. She works for the prison system, or at least at the time she did, Olivia E. Banks. She went to them, told them she was writing this book about her experience, asked permission to write it. They said, sure. And then once she was done with the book, then they decided they were going to go to court to stop her from publishing it, talking about it, writing it, publishing it, talking about it, anything like that. They were successful, but her husband stepped up and went out and advocated on her behalf because he was not under any such court orders to not speak about the product. So we had him on the program. That broadcast is also important because technically, I've said over the years we did a lot of great content. I'm very proud covering the quote-unquote London riots after the police killing of Mark Duggan, also in 2011. The subsequent rioting that started afterwards, right at the beginning of the month. That interview with Rudy E. Banks was hours after the quote-unquote rioting started. It was days after Mark Duggan was executed by the police. So technically that was our first program addressing the riots with live participants, Black Britons, on the program to give their kind of immediate assessment of what was going on. I mean, it was still live time. Things were on fire. All kinds of things were going down, but very important broadcast for a number of reasons. And the bulk of that broadcast was all about workplace racism and the myriad of ways that they terrorized and abused Rudy E. Banks' wife, Olivia E. Banks. You can go back in the archives and check that one out. At any rate, the broadcast today, again, workplace racism. This is not for spectators. If you are a non-white person anywhere in the world, especially if you are a Black person, racism is a problem for you on your job right now. Maybe you don't know it. Racism has been a problem for you on the job, and it's going to be a problem for you on the job as long as the system of white supremacy exists. So this broadcast, again, for folks to share, strategize. If you want feedback, if you're having a problem, certainly you should dial in. You can share whatever is happening and get suggestions, what have you, from people. I again encourage folks, if you can follow up. So if you call in and kind of let us know about a situation or something that you're dealing with, if you can let us know how things have evolved, I think it's very helpful because it's just good to know what things work, what things do not. If you use some of the strategies that are suggested, great. You can let us know if it helped out or not. If you use your brain computer and come up with your own solutions, great. You can let us know how all that works out. But I do think that's important. And I think sharing in general, very important. I think it's always good to be able to see patterns and just recognize when racists are doing a lot of the same things on the job. One quick tip, I always encourage folks to also reflect on your workplace history because sometimes things will stick out. Once you have a better understanding of racism, you'll be able to look back at things you did when you were a bit more confused and say, oh, okay, now that I have a better understanding, this is something that I would not do now, or this is something that I would continue doing. Maybe I didn't understand the correctness or the logic of why this was something constructive to do, but now that I do, I'll keep doing that. One of those things, Gus T, I used to call myself being cool. I would not cash checks when I was paid. I guess most folks, or a lot of folks, have direct deposit and all kinds of other gadgets. But back in the Stone Age, when they actually did issue checks, I would not cash them, thinking, that was a cool way to save money. You can just, that way you won't be tended to be reckless with your nickels and going out and buying things. I would not encourage that at all. That is something like just thinking back on, like, man, as terroristic as this environment is, Black people get fired with or without cause all the time. I would not. That is not the technique I would use to save funds from a job at all. Upon further reflection, you could get terminated. And I have seen, I have not had this happen to me personally, but I've seen enough examples of racism on the job and just people in general being vindictive. You end up having those checks and you haven't cashed them. If they get lost, destroy, anything happens. There's a discrepancy. If you have checks and they've been held long enough and they haven't been cashed, they could cancel those checks and say, oh, we thought they were lost. Or we thought there was a problem because anything could happen. This is not an environment that is about looking out and making sure that Black people are taken care of and don't have problems, I would go ahead. I would not babysit if you actually get a hard copy paper check from a job. I just would not make a habit of holding that sort of information. I would go ahead and cash that and devise a better means of saving. That's the advice I would tell the younger, less informed version of Gus T. Come up with a better way of saving nickels. Moving forward, if folks would like to participate and you cannot call in, you can always email. We can keep it anonymous. I know some people have concerns about being identified. That's fine. My email, untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. Drop an email. We can read your commentary live on the program. Some of the folks wrote in already. Let's see. First person. Let's see. Okay, I think this is a non-white male. Writing in, I want to share an incident in which I utilized a recommendation from the workplace racism program. I'm in the process of changing jobs, and it was mentioned to me by a coworker who is also going to be the same corporation that you should request a particular category of support staff. He explained that this support person was vital to my being effective in my future position, and that without it, it would place me at a severe disadvantage. I made sure to mention and request that such a person be a part of my support staff every time I was in a meeting with the administrative staff on my new employer on at least 3 separate occasions. I never got a clear answer regarding my request. This past week, I was in a group meeting in which a PowerPoint presentation was given by one of the administrative staff on my new employer discussing future support staff. I was surprised to see that under my coworker's white male name, the particular support person was provided, and under my name, no such personnel was listed. I then brought this issue up in the meeting and was given a vague answer. The next day, I was in a teleconference, and again, I brought up the issue. This time, one of the administrators of my new position said, "Well, I was never told you requested that." I did not challenge her statement. I then went and retrieved the email in which I made the request and forwarded it to the person who said she was never told. I am not sure that this will lead to them honoring my request, but at the very least, it may force them to give a clear answer. The bottom line is that thanks to you for the recommendation, I have made email documentation mandatory as it relates to my job. Bravo. Bravo. Now, again, as he stated, we don't know how this is going to work out. So they still might turn around and say, look here, nigger, we got your email and we're still not going to give it to you. That absolutely could happen. But as he stated, then clarity. And then you could ask a question. Well, now, why is it that I am not afforded these resources when others who work for this company are? What is the protocol for being able to get these receipts? And you can just get back in the question lane. But that's great to see because that happens a lot to black people on jobs where you're asking questions. You're not trying to pull any funny business. It's not like you're trying to pull a Enron and embezzle, trillions of dollars. You're just trying to, get information, things that will help me do my job well. Who should be opposed to that? And then you get all this nonsense where they can't even answer a question. What about the staff that and then, they just do that for a half hour or they veer off and start talking about other things. White people are phenomenal at that. We've heard tons of examples of that over our 8-year history on this program. When we have white guests on the program, that's one of the things that you really got to be alert about to make sure they answer your question. And it can be great, absolutely tremendous. Email, make it a short email where it's not a whole lot of fluff. You can send an email that has one line. Bam, just the question that you need answered, and that's it. That way it's no confusion or I got lost or an opportunity to divert. We've already talked about people who said you can do the blind CC or carbon copy other people that you need. Bam, got your documentation, and you can just wait for the response. And then once you get that, you can move forward to plan your next step, how you want to proceed with things. Next person wrote in. Person writing in about the pay raise situation. I've talked about that, for a number of weeks and encourage indefinitely if people have any thoughts, if this is something that you have figured out what words to put together so that you can get a few extra nickels on your paycheck, a few extra pounds, or wherever you happen to be on the planet, that is definitely one that you should be like on speed dial to call in and run that down for us. This person wrote in about pay raises. I have found this to work for me to gain a few above the pay average raises over the years. As much as it goes against the grain to our logic, but I suggest doing more than being asked for on a consistent basis as specific projects before you get paid extra. Track it. Log it. Keep records of responses or results. Get other managers and supervisors to offer testimonials in writing or emails letting them know you would like to use their testimony about what they like about what you are doing extra. Use those testimonials in any or all communications emails. When they see that other whites are jumping on the bandwagon to give testimonials, others will join in and make it harder for them to overlook your efforts. These projects should circle around efforts to increase sales, production, processes, or customer relations. Bottom line, find ways to make or save the company money. Soon, other departments, including HR, will periodically look for your help when they need something that is up your alley. Always look for ways to improve the process, communications, sales, or even training new hires. Be the specialist and do an excellent job at whatever it is. This did not always bring me immediate increases. At times I had to fight for the increase with my manager, but again, I pull out all my records and results to prove why I deserve the increase. They may not give increases in salary immediately, but any one-time bonus or incentive reward is better than none. Absolutely. Look for the problems and create ways to fix the problems. But be aware if you need to get other whites to help you. It makes you look better than them. They may start resisting and giving you as little support as possible. Important caveat. Again, I know it goes against the grain of popular belief to make other whites' jobs easier, but log it, record it, show your results over time. Usually, if it's person has a word here that I do discourage using, that FAIR term. We do not want to use that word. That is a word I think we should strive to eliminate from our vocabulary. I'm going to insert the word just here. So the sentence would read with that one replacement. Usually, if it's a just working environment where results can't be denied, they eventually will give you a few more nickels. I guess the only caveat I would add is under the system of racism, white supremacy. At least my experience, I've been in many work environments that were not just, and sometimes they, flagrantly acknowledged, yes, this is not just a work environment, so you could do all of those things and not even get the one-time bonus. I have seen that happen sometimes as well. But moving forward, it sucks that you have to do things to make other people's jobs easier in order to get rewarded appropriately. But when you don't own the company, you got to figure out a way to provide better for your family. One time, this ongoing effort brought about a 10% raise. Other incentives in the tune of $1,000 and $2,000, and almost each year an above average yearly increase. I can't promise this will work for everyone, but this has been my attitude and has been working so far. I'm still not where I believe I should be salary-wise, but I'm still working on it. I think that'll be all of our position as long as the system of white supremacy exists, still working on getting correct, just compensation. I hope that this work ethic can help somebody. I definitely appreciate it, and I think I appreciate that he emphasized repeatedly, log, record the things that you have done to bolster sales for the company or make things more efficient or to solve specific problems that they're having on your job. Record, document all of that, because it's been my experience that white people tend to do a very good job of denying credit when black people come in to do these type of things and improve things or make a lot of money for the company. They'll come and scratch your name out, and some random racist will come in and they'll take all the accolades. So absolutely, if you can find a way to document, record, log, so that you get credit for things that you've done that help the company out, and then also the getting the testimonials, getting other people, particularly if you can get some other white people to write down great things that you've done, help them solve problems and get things done. I think that can be great. Even maybe even some other non-white people as well, if they work there, or people, if you service clients and that sort of thing, to have them write out some things that you've done well. That way you can have more ammunition to take in when you make your request for increased compensation or whatever it is that you're trying to obtain. With that, the email, untiljustice@gmail.com, the number 641-715-3640, the code 564943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. Folks who dialed in with a hand up, line should be open. Feel free if you have commentary to share.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Workplace related racism, the subject, although we, no matter how positive, sometimes, in a lot of cases rare, there's some things actually good happening. We're still in a system of racist white supremacy. Just wanted to say that, but I have a report of something constructive, primarily because the authors of this constructive event or items was actually the young black males who won that state title. And me as a football coach, and I'm talking about this weight training facility, which was it's going to be officially completed Monday, but it's just about 99% finished, and it is equivalent to, I would say, a lot of Division I colleges on the inside. And basically it was due to what those young black males were able to accomplish. Now, one would ask, what would a weight room, what would the constructive thing a weight room would do? First and foremost, it would not only become a part of the football team, but it would become a part of all of the sports at the school, all of the extracurricular sporting activities at the school. And it's also registered on the curriculum at the school. So it'll be a facility where all of the children would gain the advantage of working out in this place. I wish I can send a picture to you so you can see it, but it probably is in the capacity of I would say even something like in the tens of thousands of dollars, as far as worth wise, as far as what they did in this room, just something to report on as far as that concerned. That and it's like I say, primarily was due to the guys and what they were able to accomplish through their hard work, and that was the part of the reward for it. But anyway, I'll listen, and if I have something based on my experiences over 28 years, I would chime in and have something to say. Thank you.
Appreciate that, retired firefighter. And the folks from the UK, when we did the program or programs this past weekend and Monday, we had Esther Stanford Coast say they appreciated your expertise as a retired firefighter to the situation we were talking about with the Grenfell Tower fire. Other folks who dialed in, we do have spectators this week. Hope that means everyone is doing great on the job. You can invest in the cows if folks are doing that well, where they're not having any of these issues on their job. Stacy from the UK, are you with us? Not here. Are you with us or? Maybe she's not with us. I thought she was.
Hi, Gus.
Oh, okay. Good to hear from you. Did you have commentary you wanted to share, or did you want to just listen for a minute to get acclimated?
Yeah, if you can give me 5 or 10 minutes, I'll come back.
Not a problem. Next person that wrote in. Oh man, they got visuals. I might have to, yeah, they don't have any identifying information, so I might be able to share some of the photos. I'll have to double check to make sure. But this person said, and we've had a number of people over the years who have, I guess they've just being observant. That's one of the things as well. When I was more confused, I really was not, paying attention to just other things that were happening on the job, paying attention to other things, white people, little knickknacks and things that they have on their desk, or just things that they were talking about or interested in. I wasn't doing that. I would be doing a lot more of that now, being mindful and paying attention that these are race soldiers that I'm around, and just learning my enemy while I'm there. So this person wrote and they said, I found this in operations manager's office this morning. My research thus far tells me the CD and this so-called music group promotes racism. How should I handle this? I was actually looking for the keys to the company truck. We have permission to go in his desk drawer if we can't find something, just to be clear. So what this person found, Metallica is a white rock band, if people are familiar with Metallica. And so the CD that was in, I guess, this white person's desk is Metallica Kill 'Em All. Kill 'Em All is the CD. And then I guess he flipped it. He took pictures. Great job. I guess quickly. So he took some of the pictures, and then it's got some of the songs on the back. Hit the Lights, The Four Horsemen, Motor Breath, Jump in the Fire, Whiplash, No Remorse, Seek and Destroy, Metal Militia. This is from 1983, the one that he has here. I don't know that this one requires doing anything about it per se. That was one of the questions that was asked. How should I handle this? You took pictures of the information. You said you have permission to go in his desk, so it shouldn't be any sort of accusation that you were, doing something incorrect. You were looking for, I think you said keys to the company vehicle or what have you. If anything, I guess you could ask, I've heard Metallica before, but I don't know a whole lot about their music. Are you a big fan? And see what he said. You could just ask him, to talk about what he likes about their music and, what are some of his favorite songs of theirs. When did he just, you could just ask questions just to try to get more information about what he likes about this group. Does he listen to this at work? Do any of the other coworkers listen to this group? You could just ask questions. I don't know if anything needs to be done about it per se in terms of bringing it up as a problem, or if you, I think he did say, the person who wrote this said that he thought that this could be some sort of white supremacist group. Might be. I don't even know if I would bring that up. I would just maybe ask just general questions about the group, the music, what he likes about it, when he started listening to it, that sort of thing. This is one of those, I don't know that you have to do anything about it. You got evidence that it was there. You could just file that away for interesting information about racist X on the job, and then if there are more details come later if you have further interest. Then any folks have any thoughts on this? This person was asking for input. Any thoughts on how this should be handled, if at all? Finding this Metallica Kill 'Em All CD that he thinks could be a white supremacist group band. We could table if folks want to think about it. Come back to it down the road if you want to think about it for a little while. Folks have any thoughts on that? I've said this before. I think a lot of times these sort of things, many things you do not have to respond to. If you kind of get in that habit or feel like you have to respond to every racist incident on the job, you could just be worn out with every time they say something about President Obama or Tiger Woods or whatever it is, Donald Trump, just the myriad of endless comments and things and jokes and TV shows and everything else. Some things I would just record that it happened, file that away. You can put that in your workplace journal for the day and keep it pushing. Let's see, other folks, if you all have commentary, questions you would like to share, feel free. Line should be open. again, we have lots of spectators hanging out today. I don't know what jobs the folks have where they are not having incidents or not having issues on the job. That is grand. Please invest if things are that great. If this means that you're not having problems, you're getting all your promotions, everything is working out well on the job, racism-notes.blogspot.com, racism-notes.blogspot.com. Listener supported, counter racist radio. PayPal button is in the top right corner. If you're not into PayPal, drop us an email. We will get you the physical mailing address. Much obliged. And I would remind this again, I've seen this pattern consistently where people get very, very excited for some subjects, like Area 8, anything dealing with quote-unquote interracial relationships. Tons and tons of commentary. Everybody has, input to say. Workplace racism, not as much enthusiasm. And I see that with other topics as well. But that is exactly why we do the workplace racism program and why we do not get too sidetracked on the compensatory call-in other broadcasts with the sexual intercourse thing and some things that people find more, I guess, more scintillating to discuss. Again, Dr. Welsing and many others encouraged workplace racism. Very, very important. I think it should be real hard to get 5 black people together and nobody's having any issues, concerns, interesting things happening with their job. That is amazing. But if that is happening, right on. Kudos to the C.O.W.S listeners. Let's see. Mr. Steele had a hand up. Did you have commentary?
Just a second here. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. I just wanted to respond to the previous, letter regarding the Metallica CD. If I were so moved by that image, I would be moved to bring it up with human resources on the basis that it's encouraging violence in the workplace. I would not go for I wouldn't address this from the angle of racism, simply because there are too many suspected racists that enjoy Metallica. However, it is undisputably violent, and if you do enjoy, addressing these sort of issues and spoiling fun for racists, you could definitely bring this up to human resources. There was one situation that I fell into, or not fell into, but that I was met with at one of my previous workplaces. One of my colleagues thought it would be appropriate to bring his gun trading magazines to the workplace. That is magazines that showed handguns and rifles, not actual physical magazines that go inside a firearm. But so instead of just addressing this immediately, what I did was I took a photo of it, and then I also took photos of other other very violent media that some of my colleagues were bringing into the office, and I just wrote a simple email about it. And then, the company policy was actually changed about what was appropriate for the workplace as a result of this. So you can easily make a case that these materials are not appropriate for work and that they need to be taken away, and you can do so without arousing suspicion or calling attention to yourself by simply just writing your human resources in the form of an email. That doesn't even have to be something that you have to meet in person about. That is just something that can be simply emailed. Hey, I saw this in the workplace, photo. I see a number of our colleagues trading and dealing with this sort of media, and it makes me feel very uncomfortable and very unsafe in the workplace. And if you word it in a similar matter, it should be addressed very seriously. And if it isn't, then that is grounds that you can use later against that employer should anything happen with your employment. Should you be terminated or should you come under extra scrutiny or something like that, you can make the case that, hey, you truly do not feel safe in your workplace. And I will mute my line at this time. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that, Mr. Steele. That makes a lot of sense. Definitely, I think you would be much more successful if this is something that you want to address, the person who wrote this in, or in these type of issues in general. I think you'll be much more successful, as Mr. Steele stated, addressing it as a, is this acceptable in the workplace, as opposed to, I think this could be promoting white supremacy, racism, just because it's the name of the CD, as I said, Metallica, Kill 'Em All, if you want to look at it online. But the cover of it, it's got like a hammer. It looks like a hammer of some sort in someone's hand, and looks like blood on the floor or something. I mean, just really graphically violent, just taking it from that, perspective. Is this appropriate for the workplace? And even reminded me, I think Mr. Fuller had said before, and exactly to what Mr. Steele said, where you're not trying to even come at it as I want to get this person in trouble. This person should be fired. Just what is acceptable? What sort of environment do we want to promote here? What's going to be best for us to be able to maximize our productivity, the hours that we're going to be here. That way it's not, trying to get someone fired or mess up their career or anything. And, just say, okay, yeah, what are the values that we want to promote in the workplace here? You could just ask, what sort of content is acceptable, in terms of if you have music or items in your desk, magazines, like you were talking about, what sort of content is it acceptable to have here? And just see what they say, if you want to address it that way. But yeah, another great way that you can go about it. I think it's great that you took pictures, regardless of how you proceed. Same thing I said earlier, you can let us know how you deal with this, but I think it's great you got the photographs. That way you got evidence that, it was there, that, that works in your favor regardless of how you want to address the situation. But definitely I would reinforce the going that I think this is promoting racism, white supremacy is probably not going to be successful. White people tend to be pretty good at neutralizing that sort of attack. Other folks, if you either had commentary on, I guess, this individual's situation with the Metallica CD, or if you have your own situation you want to address, feel free.
Yes, I have a comment on it. As far as the opportunity, what will be the best time to state concerns on something like that? Just about everybody's job, they have meetings with the employees to discuss improvements, issues that may have been a problem. Employers are confident that basically what's going to be said in the meetings, if anything, is going to be kind of mundane and not really that striking, but they do it just to cover themselves, to make sure that they are getting the opinion of their employees. And that would be a great time to bring the matter up in front of the individual or individuals who may be bringing these things on the job, as well as the CEO or whoever may be the owners or the managers of the business. And as you mentioned, I agree. You don't even have to mention about what your thoughts on whether it's racist or not, anything like that, because you kind of would create a whole lot of baggage with yourself to be able to kind of like articulate it or prove it. That you really, you kind of like would be creating work for yourself to have to do that. Put it that way. Not saying it can't be done, but you just create more work for yourself. Just state about having concerns about the workplace, and this is a great job, and I wouldn't want to see it be put in some sort of, the employees be put in some sort of jeopardy out of fear, because some of the language that I've heard may be considered to be violent and or offensive. Just lay it on like that, and whoever that is listening, who is report that to the people who own the business, it will get reported. It will get reported, and it will be on record. So that would be, from my experiences, is a good time to do that. That's it.
Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
To that point, I just want to say these claims are made much more effective when you say that you feel unsafe, as opposed to a hypothetical person could feel unsafe. No, I saw person XYZ bring in these magazines and bring in this music, and I think that it is promoting violence in the workplace, and it's making me feel uncomfortable or even unsafe. If you use those words, then they have to act on that. If you start saying that it could make somebody feel unsafe or it could be seen as violent, then it could be, but it isn't. So you want to make sure that you make an affirmative claim that you feel that your safety is in question, and you feel that your comfort has been affected by the presence of this media. And if you do that, then your employer is going to have to act. If you say it could be, or if you do any sort of supposition, then they could do some supposition and say, whatever. So I'm just giving that suggestion when making these sort of claims or these sort of reports.
Definitely. I think that's a much better way to go about it. I think it's racist, what have you. I don't feel safe with this sort of content. I know folks have addressed this before. You can even reference, there have been all these incidents and what have you in the workplace and what have you, with violence and what have you. I'm just concerned for workplace safety is all. Who's against workplace safety? If other folks had commentary, either for this person's situation, if you had your own incident that you wanted to address, line should be open. Other folks we have not heard from, feel free.
Good evening. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Greetings to everyone. I haven't been able to share in a few weeks, but I just wanted to, again, I've been on a job for a relatively short time. And so we all have identification badges that we wear, and we relocated to another place. So we normally work at one place. They're doing some renovations at that building, so we had to relocate to another space, a whole another building, at a whole another location. With we have to share this facility with other people who are in our same field. So the first day that I'm there, I get there, I have my identification badge on, and another black male, he has one on too, it's a rule. And this white, he's one of these guys that identify as Italian, as if, that's not, not white, but he's a white man. And me and this black male walk into the space, and he's like, well, who are you? And he said it and is smiling, as if it was a friendly way. And he just reaches down and grabs my badge and reads it, like, and I felt it was definitely racist, and just, I think he could have just read my badge, or if he asked a question, he could have just waited for me to respond, and I could have told him who I was. But he's supposed to be the highest level supervisor or manager within that building that we relocated to. And so that was one incident. I wanted to speak on something general where like my pay was not, I know I believe it was, I'm not sure, Roz or something that said that his pay wasn't right, and they weren't compensating him correctly. And the same thing was happening to me. So, I called my human resources, which, that's who I thought I was supposed to speak with. So I called them. White lady answers the phone. I know that she's white because I've met her before. And, she puts me on hold. Well, she doesn't even put me on hold. She just goes into a silence, into a dead silence, not telling me that, hey, right now I'm on the computer checking something. If you can just give me a moment, blah, blah, blah. She just puts me in a complete silence. So I'm just waiting, like it's an awkward silence. And I'm like, away from it. I'm like, hello? Oh yeah. I'm going to transfer you to the payroll department. And immediately I just felt like that wasn't the right thing to do, because the payroll department just follows orders of what the human resources department tells them that this person is supposed to be getting paid. So they just follow. So she transfers me to the payroll department. I explain my situation again, that I'm not being compensated correctly. And of course the lady there says, yeah, you need to speak with HR. So, so she transfers me. Actually, she doesn't know how to transfer me back to HR. So I have to call back the first lady that I talked to. And then I told her, like, hey, I just got off the phone with you less than maybe 5 minutes ago. And she finally just gets on the computer. Again, this dead silence, not even telling me what she's doing. And then she says, something was entered wrong with your payroll information, and we can get that straightened out, And yeah, we'll straighten it out. And I'm like, hey, can you give me a time frame or something, and blah, blah, blah. And she gives me a time frame. Of course, it doesn't get corrected in the time that she mentioned. So yeah, I had to call HR again, speak with another. I believe she's a white woman. I'm not sure. She may not be. And finally, after like 3 paychecks, they finally pay me correctly according to what they said they were going to, but they haven't paid me my retroactive compensation yet. So I'm gonna have to call them about that again. But it's just how suspected racists, they kind of send you through so many different channels and so many different ways to try to correct something. It's like, hey, call this person, no, call this person, call this person or whatever. And it's pretty frustrating. Luckily, I have some coins saved up to where it wasn't really affecting me at the time. But, I can imagine if someone is in a dire financial situation, it could be really difficult. And lastly, and I know it's discussed on the C.O.W.S. I know, Gus, you talk about it frequently, and a lot of people do it regarding reading your manual, and trying to find out what's going on. And I found in my field, and just in general, I think, and I'm sure this may have been discussed before, but they purposefully don't put things into the manual. They're not direct in certain, rules and regulations, so that it can be at the, I know this word is very important, and I didn't realize the importance of it. It's left at the discretion of usually a suspected racist to determine how to, enforce whatever rule that they come up with at the time. And it's usually going to not be in the favor of a, non-white employee. So they just, they don't put specific things in there. And when an issue comes up, they can just decide, okay, no, we're going to do this because this is the way I feel today, or I want to practice racism. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Man, I too did not recognize the monumental importance of that word, discretion. Like, if you see that word in your policy and procedure manual, cringe. I mean, you should really reread maybe that whole page if you see that word discretion pop up anywhere, or as the caller just stated, a lot of times they have what they call those unwritten rules, where this is a code in terms of what we do here, even though it's not written out explicitly. A whole lot of times that's going to be up to discretion, which generally will mean feel free to treat the niggers however you feel that day. whatever you can come up with, just let your imagination run wild. That's generally what it means. In fact, true story. I had to visit the Department of Licensing. They don't have Department of Motor Vehicle in Washington State. And I knew this was going to be bad from the moment I called them, and the person on the phone that I suspect talked to, she said, "Oh yeah, the people at the window, they have a lot of discretion about what they." I was almost ready to hang up the phone, like, "Oh God, this is going to be," and it was just as bad as I thought. But from that moment on, I knew exactly what to expect from the whole process. But yeah, that word. Huge. In fact, they have whole books about how just discretion plays out in so many different environments, the workplace being one, but definitely pay attention to that. And I think it was Roz. It's been a myriad of COWS listeners over the years, Gus T included, who've had difficulty with compensation. Not being compensated correctly. That's what I said before. That is folly. Like, oh my God, stupidest things Gus has done. Saving checks or not cashing checks from a job. That is horrendous error with all the things that can happen. And can you imagine? So you saved a check for a while and then something happens. You are no longer working there. And then you have to go back for your former employers, your former HR department, and now try to get a payroll issue resolved. Like, oh man, that is just asking for horrendous problems. But yeah, go through your policy and procedure in advance. I think Roz would co-sign with it. Go through it in advance. If there's any sort of payroll issue, what the procedure for resolving that problem is, that is huge, because that happens to so many black people. Either the compensation is short, or the rate of pay is wrong. They say they were going to pay one rate, and it ends up being something dramatically lower than that. It's always lower. It's never, we said we were going to give you this, and it ends up being something 25% high. Like, that's never the case when it's black people on the job. So absolutely, you really got to be alert about the payroll situation. Other folks that dialed in that we've not heard from, if you had either commentaries, responses to what you've heard thus far, or if you have your own situation you want to address, feel free. Caller 3229 should be with us.
Yes, may I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much. This is my first time calling in, so I want to thank everybody for all of their commentary. I want to quickly go over my example of workplace racism. I started working for this job about 3 years ago. I really liked it. It was the best place I ever worked. I know you speak about this a lot, Gus, but I was getting my raises and everything was going very smoothly. And the manager of this organization is a black man, or was a black man. And the supervisors were next. It was about 6 supervisors, because it was 6 different departments, and then the employees were underneath. And this is important because I answered directly to my supervisor. I very rarely met with the manager, but I knew that he was doing a great job because the organization was well run. It was organized. We were always getting our supplies, and it was profitable, and it was also saving the company money. So we have these monthly meetings, and during the monthly meetings is when the manager would get up and just talk about what was going on with the organization. And earlier last year, he ended the meeting by saying that he had a complaint against him. And he said that the complaint was that he was showing favoritism towards a certain employee. And he asked all of the employees if we had any advice, and it was clear that he was trying to get to the bottom of the problem and looking to resolve it. And he talked about ways in which we could respond to him both anonymously, and also if we needed to talk to him, he said he had an open door policy. But because I only really dealt with my direct supervisor, I didn't have any knowledge of this. But nonetheless, he was clear that he wanted to resolve the issue. So anyway, the summer rolls around, and a big tenet of our company is safety. Safety is instilled in everything that we do. It's a part of our profit sharing. It's huge. And our organization went the longest without any OSHA recordables. And this was a big deal. It was the longest in the company's history. And the CEO came down, the CFO, all the big wigs. We had a catered lunch. I mean, it was like steak and asparagus. It was really nice. And At that time, everybody stood up and they talked about what a great job he had done. How, once again, the organization was very profitable and it was saving money. And once again, we didn't have any OSHA recordables, and we work in a pretty hazardous environment. So that was a big deal. And it was over 20 years. And he had been the manager for most of that time. So, everything was going smoothly. And this was the end of the year, of last year. We got a call over the intercom, and everybody asked us to come. And it was odd because usually we have meetings, they're on our Outlook, and, we know about them. So I get to the meeting, and at first I thought that maybe some of us were going to get cut because it was some cost containment that was going on at the company. But all of the upper management was there, and they said that he had been let go, and it just sucked the air out of the room. Everybody was really shocked. And, we just couldn't believe what we were hearing because it just didn't make any sense. We had had that meeting probably 9 or 10 months previous to this. So I hadn't heard anything else about it, and nothing explosive was going down. And it actually took me a few months to figure out the reason because, of course, they didn't tell us. And I had a contact at HR who let us know that he was let go because he was allegedly showing favoritism to black employees. And I knew that even though I did not have any contact with him on a personal level, I knew that wasn't possible. And I'll tell you why. The company that I worked for in the 90s had been sued for gender discrimination, and they lost. And in the part of losing, they restructured their entire company, in which everything is very standardized. So, for example, if you want to get a job, you've got to apply for the job through an internet portal. You can't give it through a manager or anything like that. Same thing with interviews. If you're selected for an interview, human resources will put together a panel, and that panel has standardized questions. Same thing with promotions or raises. Do you have problems with attendance? Has you done your work? Has it been accurate, et cetera, et cetera? And so I knew that it was an excuse that they were using just to get rid of him. And at this point, he had been at this company for, I think, about 33 or 34 years. So he put in, a generation of his time towards this company, and he was really doing a great job. And that really woke me up, and I learned a few things, and I just wanted to share them with everybody else. One thing that I learned in reference to white supremacy is the importance of having moving targets. Whatever values and morals and standards that folks pretend that they have, they really don't have these things. They're able to shift these things and move it, whatever agenda it is that they want to fulfill. And that was obvious because just a few months before, you had the CEO of the company come down and talk about what a great job he had done and how profitable he had been to the company. For me personally, it made me want to save my money because I think for a lot of, especially black people, we need to make sure that we have a cushion. That's really important in life because, things will happen. Life happens. So you just want to make sure that you have a little bit in savings. And then the third thing I want to say is one thing that the TALS listeners always say is that it's not your job. And that's one thing that I definitely learned. It's not my job. This is a job. This is the desk. This is the computer. And that's really actually helped me a lot because it's allowed me not to be so emotional about things that I obviously really don't have any control over. It just allowed me to focus on my work and try to do it as accurately as I can. And then, just leave the rest up for what it is. And so that's my experience. I appreciate everybody listening.
Grand. First time caller. Appreciate you sharing. That is unfortunate what happened to your colleague, this black male. When you were sharing what happened to him, I was waiting to see, who is receiving this favoritism, and of course you and the other niggers that are employed there, and that is a very popular accusation now. We read about that in Katrina after the flood when they had a black district attorney in Orleans Parish after Katrina, and they lobbed the same accusation at him that because he fired a lot of the white attorneys that worked for the city and brought in black attorneys, and they got upset. Same type of thing. I think it was a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, if memory serves. But yeah, very popular, and that's why I say this notion that if you just come in, you do a good job. You said you all, hadn't had you said you all work in a toxic environment, and you all have, I guess, not had any major errors in that department for some time, for 20 years or so. Have been efficient and doing great work. That this has been recognized, and even the higher ups, more powerful whites, have come down. You all are doing a great job in this section. Keep it up, and then whammo! Even after he's worked for the company for all these decades, tossed out on the curb. And I think we've had a number of people who have shared about black people who've worked for an organization for 30, 40 years, sometimes even more than that, and just being thrown out like, they were worthless. And no, I think we even had one person who said it was a black person, a black male, who had a pretty nice job at an organization. He had worked there for over 30 years, and before they ultimately fired him, they had him working as a custodian. And this was someone who had, was a major executive at the company, and he was, in his last time there, pushing a mop. Like, that's the system of racism, white supremacy. And I think it's really important for us to keep that in mind so that we don't internalize it and think that it's something defective about us. No, they don't care how confident you are. They don't care what a great job you're doing. You're still just a nigger, and you can be reminded of it. They can show you better than I can tell you, and they can do so at any moment. And they just flagrantly demonstrate that authority on a regular basis. I'll stop there. Other folks, and that about the my desk, my job, very important as well. Keep that in mind. I think, exactly as you said, I think it promotes health because it's true. It's not your job. It's not your desk. It's not your office. They can take all of that back anytime they feel like it. And again, they flagrantly flex with that regard all the time. Other folks have commentary on what they've heard thus far, or I guess if you have your own situation you would like to address, feel free. Oh, wait a minute. Stacy is still hanging with us, I think. She said 10. It's been quite a bit more than 10 minutes. If you needed more time, we could do that. But if you wanted to share, Stacy in London, you should be with us.
Hi, Gus. Yeah, I will share. But just to say on that last, in response to that last caller, I think probably one of two things happened. Either when they were having that meal where everybody was present and the senior management came down, they either had already decided that they were going to let that person go, or they observed how many black staff were having too much of a good time at that event, and that's when that decision was made. I wouldn't be surprised if they'd already planned to let him go way before coming down and praising all his good work, because that's just how the manipulation works, and just to confuse you and I guess cause maximum damage as well. In terms of my own update, just to say on the Olivia Ebanks book, I was able to purchase that a couple of months ago, so it is still available. I don't think there were that many copies, but it was still available on Amazon. And I started to read it. I think I've got some odd reading habits, so sometimes I'm reading more than one book at a time. But it is a very good book, so I do need to finish it. But yeah, it's not a reflection on the book, or the fact that I haven't actually read it. I have previously shared that I'm going through a situation at work where a junior member staff had complained about me shouting at him. The situation is ongoing, and sometimes I'm not updating either because things aren't moving that quickly, or because sometimes it's just emotionally draining to even talk about some of this stuff, because it is current. However, and there are lots of things that I'm dealing with, and sometimes the whole thing is overwhelming. This week something actually happened which I've now had to just escalate the matter, and I would appreciate people's comments on this if they know of or have similar experiences. The stuff I've been dealing with work has gone on for a couple of years, quite frankly. And it is from director level down. And so a lot of the things that I've spoken about on this program, you know, when people feel that you are persona non grata or that you are an easy target, you will find that people either avoid you, and so there have been times when I've been completely ostracized, or they feel that you're an easy target and that they can effectively, you know, pile on the abuse because they have their own issues. And as I said, it's stuff that's been happening from director level down, and including my head of team and line managers. So, you know, it's relentless. However, it's probably a couple of years ago now, maybe about 18 months ago, there was a day where I was by the lift area. My director came out the lift and she stomped by me in such an aggressive way, and I moved back, and if I hadn't moved back it would have been a collision, and it was only the two of us by the lift at that point, and I was so stunned by it because it's just like extreme behavior. And I know sometimes that people in this program do talk about how they encounter elements of aggression. And there are extreme circumstances, which we've all heard about on sort of news broadcasts or whatever. But I don't know that happens that much in the UK. I'm not saying we don't have extreme circumstances, and there probably are people who act out in a violent way in the workplace, but it's not that common. And certainly I've not experienced it either before personally, or known of anybody who's acted out violently in the workplace. And if it has happened, it's been kept quiet. So, and just to say, I've never had conflict with this person, and I know she doesn't like me because she makes her contempt very clear, but there's never been a situation where I've either worked that closely with her to offend her or anything, or even to actually just have that much to do with her on a day-to-day basis, because she's director and she doesn't necessarily get involved in some of the projects that I work on that closely. So that was the first time it happened, and even though I knew what had happened, I kind of thought, well, maybe she was just mad, and I think she probably was mad at some situation or another meeting that she'd been at. However, she knew what she did, and people know, if you're going to walk into somebody, and you'd at least acknowledge and apologise for what you're doing, or even especially if it was unintentional. So, needless to say, that has actually happened 3 times. But yesterday, I was in a kitchen area, and how the kitchen area is situated is that you can walk through to get to lifts or other parts of the building. And on the other occasions, as I said, the only reason why those haven't actually resulted in direct contact is because I've moved out of the way. But I was using the microwave yesterday, and I saw her coming out the corner of my eye, because I was side on, so she was walking towards me. But I was actually lifting something out the microwave, so I couldn't avoid her. And she just walked into me and walked past. And I stood there, and I just for a second, and I just thought, and where the lifts are, sorry, you have to turn a corner. So she just walked into me, walked past, and just carried on walking wherever she went. And I stood there for a while, and I just thought, am I going to say something? And it was probably only a second. But, I was having that thought, and I thought, no, I'm not going to go and say anything to her directly, because at this point, it will probably end up either in a situation where they claim that I'm being aggressive to her or that I'm being emotional. And I was actually due to go, and I was at that point meeting with somebody else who was sat at a table. She had her back to us, so she didn't actually see what had happened. But I thought, no, okay, I'm now going to have to escalate this matter, because the disrespect, the degrading, the sheer, I mean, it's beyond bullying. And I'm not going to say the organisation that I work for, but I do not work in a small, nondescript organisation. And to think that people are behaving that way, and I'm not a junior member of staff. I'm not the youngest person in the team. So in all my years, I've never encountered anything like this. I mean, there's something else that actually happened very similar with somebody else in the organisation, but I'll touch on that another time. But this is in the context of everything else that I'm dealing with because of, the way in which I'm being treated across the board. But this is a director. And so I got upset when I was meeting with the person, because it was also, there's an element of disbelief that somebody is actually treating me in that way. I did have my meeting, and then I went and spoke to somebody who I do get on with in the organisation. And she advised that, I do actually escalate the matter. So what I've done is I've spoken to, I'm about to meet with the group director. I have spoken to his PA and made her aware of what has actually gone on. Today, I didn't actually go into the office. I was on my way in, and then I just stayed at home. I emailed into my manager, made her aware that actually something has happened. I didn't tell her what, because obviously she's part of the problem. And so it wasn't my direct line manager that I'd emailed, it was my head of team. There was something that had happened a week and a half ago with her, and I raised the matter with HR, who just basically gave me this, the cold shoulder, basically. So this is why I've escalated the matter to one of the group directors who manages the director. But yeah, so that is my update for the week. I mean, I do have some other things, Gus, but I'm interested in whether or not people have actually had to deal with similar situations. And there's, just needless to say, I mean, it's beyond the point that I am going to allow somebody to think that they can continually behave that way towards me. And when you're making physical contact, this is just way too much. You're not going to disrespect me in that way. And I can only imagine that because I have tried to work through a lot of the stuff that I'm dealing with, it's almost as if they've somehow thought they can pretty much do anything they like, I'll mute my line, guys.
Context of White Supremacy. Thank you for sharing. That is Stacy joining us from London. If my math is accurate, it is 2:23 a.m. Friday morning that she's up to discuss with us for workplace racism. I have not had, number one, for all the folks who've had difficulties, for the people who are just spectating and not having these issues, wish we were in your position. But for Stacy and the other folks who've had, really traumatic things that they've had to deal with, compensation not being correct, and people, physically attacking you on the job, like, man, my sympathies. In terms of dealing with it, I think context is so important in this situation, because Stacy, she's been, discussing with us for a while now. She said an update. She has already been accused by her colleagues of being aggressive, right? And like verbally attacking this white person. So at least for me, that would have a huge impact on how I proceed in dealing anything else. Because exactly as she stated, if you go and address it, or even if you just try and address it with this race soldier, this woman who is, coming and pushing you, or however we want to phrase it, but just physically attacking you in the hallways, if you address it directly with her, like, excuse me, you just bumped into me. Are you going to say excuse me or what have you, which is a logical human response? It's, oh, the savage black woman is coming to, attack me again. She yelled at me and bit my head off, and I stumbled and I just bumped, and she'll start crying. I mean, that's, is what I'm saying. Am I talking crazy, Stacey, or do you think it's reasonable that that's how this could end up playing out if you had said something to her?
That's exactly why I didn't.
Yeah.
That's exactly why.
I just think for context, that's huge. And I think for so many black people around the world, that almost British at the beginning with Olivia Ebanks, that's exactly what she talks about in the book. That's why I think it's so important that we talk about this, because this is how you end up in mental crisis when you're on a job and you're being assaulted, and then it's happening to the degree that you feel I can't even say anything, because if I speak up, I have a little bit of black self-respect. Hey, can you walk down the hall without attacking me, please? If I even say that could be added to the list of violations against me, where I've attacked another white person, if I yelled at another white person and bit their head off, and just asking them to please see if you can walk a little bit further away from me when you pass me in the hall. Is that asking too? I mean, that's the trauma and terror of racism, white supremacy. I totally understand the logic of, why you, chose to deal with it in that way, given everything that you're dealing with at the time. It just seems like something that I would have to figure out, because I just don't think I could tolerate that on a daily basis, because this could just continue. I mean, it could be a harder shove next time. It could be an elbow. It could be something where food is spilled on me or something, so I have a ruined outfit and have to wear that for the day. I would have to figure out a way of just addressing it, like just, hey, I think the other day you might have bumped into me, just one. Something, particularly if it's happening regularly, where she bumped into you that time, the other times where you're feeling like you're having to dodge her almost in the hallway, that sort of thing, I think something would have to be said. I think anytime it gets to the point where there's violence happening, and that's how I regard this, that's the way I'm processing what you just shared with us as an act of violence by a race soldier. I think that's where something's got to be said, because I think it's just going to continue and probably escalate from there. And again, like you said before, I think they're probably all networking. She's probably in with the gang. She's probably colluding with the folks who are accusing you of violating this other white dude that you work with and everything else. They're probably all, pals, partners in crime, as it were. Did other folks have, commentary for how Stacey is dealing with this situation, or how you would recommend dealing with this situation?
Only thing I would say to it, that it has to be dealt with immediately. No delay.
If this were your sort of situation, like, what would you say in terms of what would you go directly to the white woman who is doing this violence in the hallway, or would you go to someone else to try to help mediate?
Based on my personality, I would have dealt directly with the person immediately. The implications are somewhat subtle. It's not like the person punched her in the face. They bumped into them, and I would have asked the question: did you do that intentionally? And let them answer whatever kind of way they want to answer. And and from there is how I would make my plans. Which I think it would make the situation a lot more easier to figure out if you ask them directly, look them right in the eye, no smiling at all, and say, did you do that? Did you do that intentionally? That sort of thing. Then you go from there. It may end up being a report to a supervisor, but the first thing I'll probably say was, don't ever let that happen again. It depends on what the answer is. If they say yes, or something close to that, I would say don't ever let that happen again. If they say it was a mistake, I say, well, be very careful because I'm going to think something different if it happens again. That sort of thing. And because they from there they couldn't go on doing it in such a subtle matter after that, because that person would know that you, the victim, are aware of what they're doing. So it has to be much more obvious the next time. But you have to say something about it or do something about it immediately. In my opinion. I hope did I answer your question, Gus?
Yes, sir. That did answer the question.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Doing so. I guess hindsight, since that's not possible to deal with it immediately, would you, since this is something that would have to be addressed after the fact, would you still go directly to the person and ask them about it, or would you go to someone else to help mediate?
I can see either way, but knowing me, I would still go right there directly to that person. Directly, because I think I know where you come from. Because with me, it was fester in my spirit, for a long time, and I don't know. It's just something that has been probably a habit with me that I would. A lot of times to deal directly with the source if there's something negative coming in my direction, or at least attempt to, deal directly with the source. The idea of going to supervisor or something like that, it may take place. I may feel it's necessary to let them know, address this, to maybe make some kind of address this issue on, this happening. But my instincts would still tell me to first deal directly with that person. I can only equate it to my personality and my how I behaved in similar situations while I was on that job.
Hi, Gus.
Yes, Stacey in London.
Thank you to the Firefly. So just to give a bit more context, I mean, this is sometimes things are so subtle, although that probably isn't a subtle act in terms of the build-up, where she has stomped by me, and made her, and she's shorter than me, so but making her presence known. But it's almost when it hasn't actually directly resulted in a collision, only because I've moved out of the way. But it's like, sometimes you think, well, gosh, what am I going to say? I mean, maybe if it was being said directly to the person, that would be one thing. I mean, there is a power differential, certainly in terms of her role, and obviously her ability to affect my livelihood. Over the period that it was happening before it actually resulted in a collision yesterday, there's so many other things happening, and I, just emotionally being able to get up and go to work every day was a huge challenge for me anyway. So sometimes emotionally you're not even in a position to deal with stuff, and I think people almost sense when you're weak and they feel that they can abuse. The other thing to just say is that because, as I mentioned, there have been other things going on in the team, and sometimes we have young people that will come in and help us out on projects. And I mainly work with suspected racist white women, and there's one of them who does manage a team for young people. And over the years, I mean, they come in and out of the office all the time. They're not direct employees, but they will get paid to come in and work on projects from time to time. And I had worked with a couple of them where we've had big projects where the whole team has been involved. And one particular girl who's actually a young black female, we worked on a project probably back into 2012, and she still comes in and out of the office and get on really well. She used to come in and hug me, we'd have a chat, whatever. And again, because people sense there are things going on, people's behaviours can change towards you, and it's not, again, like you have conflict with anyone or some of these individuals, and certainly I wouldn't with that person. I don't know what gets said to people as well, so that's, you only know that people are behaving differently towards you. And so this girl, from sort of coming in, hugging me and having a chat, to just ignoring me. And I'm a grown woman. I don't intend to get into nonsense conversations with people. If you want to behave in a certain way, you don't want to talk to me, fine. To a degree, sometimes I understand if people feel that their position is vulnerable, that they will avoid. But then, if you're actively getting involved in things going on in the office and ill-treating, then, you're clearly letting me know who you are, and we will not ever proceed in a positive way from there on in. So one day, I was leaving the office, and she was walking in the opposite direction. And again, there were some narrow parts to where the office, so you can be quite near to desks and to meeting rooms, so the walkway can be quite narrow. Anyway, so she was walking towards me. I wasn't really even taking any notice of her, to be honest. I was leaving to go home, and this girl walked into me and carried on walking. And I stopped because I just couldn't believe she did it. And then she laughed. She just kept on walking, and she laughed and laughed. So obviously she did it deliberately. So I did actually call her back. I said, "What is it that you just did there?" And she goes, and I don't think she expected me to challenge her. So she said, "Oh no, I didn't do anything." So I goes, "Well, no, you just walked into me. Why did you do it?" And she's saying, "Oh no, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything." I said, "Why were you laughing?" "I wasn't laughing." And so, we carried on like that for a bit, and then I ended up saying to her, "Yeah, make sure it doesn't happen again." And at that point, I left. I went home because it was Friday evening. Came back into the office. Her manager had been in the building on the Monday, and my manager was around, and I was expecting somebody to raise it with me, and nobody had said anything. So I emailed her manager, and I said, I didn't email her. I went and said, "Can we have a chat?" And then immediately she said, "Oh, is it about such and such?" So I said, "Yeah." And she said, "We're going to have to deal with this." And she said, "Well," and then she started getting irritable with me, because obviously I don't think they expected me to say anything. And I said, "Well, I want to know how you're going to deal with it." And she said, well, we've decided to monitor it. I said, I'll have to go away and think about what you said. I said, well, I'm expecting you to deal with it and let me know what happened. So we both went back to our desks, and I sent her an email and I put it in writing. So from there she responded, and she copied my manager in, and so into her response. I can't even remember exactly what she said in the email, but then off the back of that, I asked for my manager to have a meeting with me the following week. And so we did. And one of the things I asked her was exactly who had given this person permission to monitor the situation, and precisely what were they monitoring? Because the girl who'd walked into me, her manager is on a lower grade than me, so certainly she shouldn't be monitoring me. Furthermore, who was she talking to, and who did she agree to monitor it with? So clearly they'd been having correspondence, and they didn't bring me into this equation. And I'm somebody who's worked for the organisation for a number of years. They didn't even give me the courtesy to have a conversation with me. To cut a long story short, I had checked with security. Unfortunately, because these are staff floors, there are no cameras. We ended up having a four-way meeting, and this girl came in and she cried and she cried and she cried and made up excuses to say that somebody had died in her family. In other words, trying to being a little actress and trying to avoid the situation. In a sense, it's kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't, because this girl's just going to create drama because obviously I spoke to her. And not to say that the relationship, the situation would have been the same with my director. However, they lie. But this situation has just gone on for so long, and I've raised the matter with her boss now, because they're going to have to deal with it, because I'm not, this situation cannot continue. But I just wanted to just give that bit more context, Gus. And there's just, as I said, a lot of things happening, and it's relentless.
Context of White Supremacy. Relentless, accurate description. And I think also showing, you can, sometimes it doesn't matter. I've said that before, you can do the correct thing, the logical thing, you can follow the policy, and racists are still going to practice racism. So I think it's important to just keep that in mind in all of these situations, to keep from, beating up on ourselves, and in terms of how we respond to some of the racist abuse we deal with on the job. And also, white women, always important in my view when we have workplace situations or any incidents of racism, that pointing out it is not the man, it is racist man, racist woman, racist child. You don't have a system of white supremacy without white women. And I would say anyone who works on the job, you should be able to attest to the damage that white women can do on a daily basis in workplace setting. And the weeping, we didn't just have a racist white woman, we had a weeping white woman. Their presence in a workplace setting can be deadly. I think Sabrina Johnson even talked about that before, and having a code about that to bring that up in advance, that this is business, and if things get, we're human. If you have a moment where you get emotional and you need to take some time to compose yourself, if you could just exit the room and handle your business, and then once you're composed and ready to return to the meeting to participate, rejoin us, and kind of setting that code up to begin with. I think that can be a great way to minimize, because it's man, if you thought things were looking bad before, when those white women's tears start falling, oh man, it's probably going to be a done deal for you. You can go ahead and clean out your desk or whatever. Did we have other folks who wanted to respond to Stacey's situation in London, dealing with this aggressive, violent white woman? Folks who wanted to share their own situation?
When I have the chance, I would like to just put an addition. Because I gave it a little bit more thought.
Okay. Right. I guess we'll put a pin there.
Okay. Could I say something?
Sure.
Okay. Being that it's a white female, if it was a white male, just like I mentioned before, that's how I would have, knowing me, how I would have handled it. But a white female makes it much, much, much more complicated. Because white females, more so than anybody on earth, uses their femininity as a weapon against non-white people. With the prevention of a sign of weakness and sympathy, but yet viciousness under a thin veil. So therefore, I would probably say the same things to that person, but with a witness. meaning another coworker or a supervisor, that sort of thing. Leaving openings to whereas not necessarily accusing that person of something. If you did bump into me, don't let it happen again, type of thing. I would say it then, because I think everybody that's listening would know that if I said that just in her presence, it could be something else once it gets into the presence of a third party, that I actually threaten, quote unquote, threaten her, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's where I would have to kind of like modify that with a white female. Thank you.
Appreciate the addendum. I got confused at first. I thought you said that you were going to comment once you got to a quiet area or something. I was just confused. But yeah, appreciate the amendment, because dealing with a white woman can be a little different than dealing with a white man. Both racist, but it certainly it can't change how you go about responding to the situation. So definitely appreciate the addition, retired firefighter. Other folks, if you have commentary, the number again, 641-715-3640, the code 564-943#. Press star 6 if you would like to participate. There was some crazy interference in the background for folks listening on TuneIn, but I have corrected it. Not sure what the issue was, but there was just a strange noise. It was playing, but there was just an odd background noise. The recording is fine. I hadn't been hearing it, but it was only for the people listening at TuneIn or Black Talk Radio Network. So if you're listening there, refresh, and refresh. It should be fine. The person who dialed in, last 4 digits, 6900. Did you have commentary you wanted to share?
Greetings, Gus. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Yes, greetings, Gus. Greetings to the callers and listeners. This is Jay out of New York. Just wanted to call in and provide some information on Stacy's situation, and also kind of lend in some of my experiences with the racist white females in the workplace. I would say, and one of the things that I hope that this is already taking place, but with the situation that's happening at that workplace, I would advise, if Stacey is not already doing this, to possibly call human resources and speak with the outside vendor company that handles any type of counseling, so that she could actually get counseling on record. And this, I think Mr. Steele has kind of made mention of this. If you are going to take this to the next level, along with the documentation, if you are seeing a professional, and having that professional documentation along with your documentation that kind of stresses on the impact that this has had on not just your well-being at work, but at home, and in your total livelihood, I think that kind of goes really far when you're kind of taking it the legal route. So I would definitely say that. And just for kind of like that black mental, just that like mental adjustment that you need dealing in the terroristic environment like that. I think being able to speak with someone outside that's unbiased may help. I would say, because I have gone down this road, I would say looking and doing a lot of research on the professional that you choose to go speak with, because if you do choose another racist terrorist to have these conversations with, it may just be another heightened situation in that environment. So that is just kind of one area of suggestion. And my personal situation, I actually used to manage a team of individuals. 3 of them were white females. 4 of them were non-white black females. And then I had 2 males on the team. There was a situation where I was doing my yearly reviews. Now, this is a review. I was doing my yearly reviews. This person was not meeting the standards. So I had to go in and have the dialogue with them about that. And every time I met with anyone on my team, especially the females, I would always leave my door open. And this was even before I was anywhere near as, I guess, just kind of informed as I am right now. And I'm still learning for the most part. But something always told me, just leave your door open and just have the dialogue. So I always left my door open just to cover myself. But there was a time where she wasn't happy with the fact that I was kind of giving her constructive criticism about not meeting numbers. Even though I was telling her I would assist, I would stay later, I would help her, try and get to these numbers, she went back and told white female, who was my immediate supervisor, that she felt that I was coming at her in an aggressive manner as I was giving her this constructive criticism. So, of course, she had the white tears that was going on during this conversation, and I was pulled into a meeting 2 days later and instructed that the meeting that I had should have probably been handled in a different way, and I now had to sit down with this racist terrorist white female in a meeting with my supervisor, being scolded in front of her for doing my job. So I just realized at that point, I think that was that point in my career where I realized that these manager titles, director titles, as Mr. Fuller says, they mean nothing in the system of racism, white supremacy, when you have melanin in your skin. And I think that day was the day that I saw the decline in my experience at the workplace. And it wasn't but 9-10 months later, I had to exit the environment and then had to take legal action against the organization. But extremely terroristic, and I mean, it's orchestrated, it's calculated, and there's a code behind it. So again, just to kind of go back with Stacey, I would definitely say, because the one thing I didn't do during that situation was seek help. And I was extremely frustrated because I couldn't speak with anyone and I felt alone. And when you go home and you carry that burden, it really pulls on you. And then you have to go back in the morning and do it all over again. So I would definitely stress getting some outside help if possible. But that's all I had. I'll mute my line. Thank you for the time.
Great suggestion. I know Dr. Kamal Kamban, he's been a guest on the program repeatedly, this year included. That was a great suggestion that he gave a while back directly about workplace racism, exactly what our last caller just touched on in terms of if you can get mental health, if you can see a mental health professional and they can give documentation about the trauma that you've experienced, the anxiety as a result of your workplace experiences. Great. Add that exactly as the caller said. Add that with your own documentation to help bolster your case. Do we have other folks who we're going to share?
Can I ask the previous caller a question?
I reckon.
Sure. Previous caller. This is Ken Steele, and I was just curious if you could, I don't know if the terms of your agreement allow you to go into more detail, but if you could go into your detail about your experiences with legal action, kind of elevating things to the next level. I'm very curious to hear how your experience has gone.
Unfortunately, I am not able to go into additional conversation around it because I am kind of held. I am held kind of unable to do that. But if you'd like, we can definitely connect offline, and I could probably share that information. I know it could potentially be extremely helpful for some of the other callers, but unfortunately, due to what I had to sign off on, I'm unable to kind of discuss any details that would in any way kind of connect connect the dots, if you understand what I mean.
I totally understand, and I suspect that one of the reasons why they do have these agreements that don't allow us to go into very much detail about the process and what happened. I suspect that this is just to deter other victims from taking similar action. And I think that offline, off the record, more victims should engage other victims with this knowledge, simply to kind of alleviate some of the games that are being played by these employers. There's a lot of misunderstanding on the part of victims as to what their options are for taking on some of these problematic employers. And thanks for sharing your story. And if you do want to connect offline or off the record and everything, feel free to connect with Gus, and he should be able to tell you how to get a hold of me. Thank you so much.
I sure will. And just to kind of add on, in reference to seeking legal representation, and that's one thing that I can speak about and won't kind of cause any issue. Also be very careful in that regard, because many of the suspected racists are all connected. So I went through a pretty horrible situation when I realized I was actually battling with the representation that was supposed to be on my side. And as I got closer to trying to close things down, I felt them pushing me towards settling when I wanted to do other things. So again, it's a lot of work. They do push you through a great deal of stress, even within that situation, just trying to get some type of some additional nickels to help you within the aspect of it. And it goes, there's so many different levels, especially as you're dealing with the state. And so I just feel that if there's a way that we can kind of connect, and I'm looking to see if I could start some type of a group where there's kind of a resource of individuals who have worked in the human resources space and can kind of lend that type of assistance to individuals who have not gone through it. And I would be more than willing to do that if anybody wanted to put a group like that together and start helping to answer some questions. But I'll meet the line.
I think that's really great, and I think that's necessary. And I think that more victims would definitely benefit from this. The only reason why I know that I have the ability to take legal action against my employer was because another victim reached out to me and imparted some of this knowledge onto me. So if we can definitely help spread the word, that'd be great.
Absolutely. All for it.
The caller at 5136, did you have commentary you were going to add?
No, sir. Just listening. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Had your hand up on the switchboard. Let's see. Other folks, if you have commentary, we have down to the last hour, unless folks are just spectating. The number is 641-715-3640. The code 564943 pound. And I do know that we have C.O.W.S listeners. Some of them are currently employed in HR, who listen to the C.O.W.S and have participated in workplace racism and other programs. So there might be several, I'm not sure, current C.O.W.S listeners who either have some HR experience, might be willing to participate in such a group that, I think that would be extremely helpful. That sort of networking and sharing ideas, things that just could be helpful tidbits for a lot of black people in workplace situations, just little bits of knowledge to help you get through that situation. Other folks who dialed in, if you have a hand up, if we have not heard from you, if you have commentary, feel free. Line should be open. Oh, that one has confused me. Any folks that we missed completely? Any folks who have a hand up that we missed completely? Oh, okay. They're spectating. Again, we have lots of spectators. You all are in, I guess, a pretty spectacular position. If things are swell, no problems getting all your raises and promotions on time, and you're not even seeing anything noteworthy on the job. Grand, I would just say stay tuned. Racists tend to be pretty active and alert with things, so, do not get complacent. Stay alert. Other folks have commentary that they want to share. Anything else stood out? Either Stacy's commentary, some of the folks that wrote in, or if you have your own situation you want to touch on. Oh, wait a minute. The person that dialed in 7720. Did you have commentary?
Good evening, Gus. Good evening, listeners. This is the Voice 305 out of Florida. I just wanted to call in and basically give you guys a couple scenarios that's going on down here in Florida. The new thing that's going on is a lot of white homosexual males that are getting to be placed in high positions in jobs. And what happens is that they are basically they engage in intimate relationship with non-black, white, Hispanic individuals, and it's been happening at several jobs. And I've had close people to me that reports to me about it. And one incident is at one job. There's 2 black people and 4 white that work at this one particular place of employment. And the boss, he's a homosexual white male. One of the employees, they have been working there for 15 years. The black lady, been working there for 15 years. Now, recently they're telling everybody that they're being outsourced. The company's outsourcing, so a lot of them are losing their jobs. Now, what this manager is doing is that he's getting rid of the employees one by one. And what happens is the employees, they know he's in a relationship with a homosexual, Hispanic, non-black male that works at a low-income job at another place of employment. So what happens is this manager, he actually brought his lover over to the company, and not only did he bring his lover over to the company, he also put him in a high position where he was making $30,000 a year at his old job. Now he's making $125,000 at this job. And he has no experience in the field that he just got brought into. The black lady who's been there for 15 years, she has more qualifications for the position. She didn't get bumped up in it. And then there was the other black female that knew about this. She went to HR. When she went to HR, she ended up getting fired. And when she got fired, they made it seem like it was something else, but because they didn't want it to be no direct affiliation of her going and telling HR, which she originally told HR, is that it's unfair for this guy to bring in his lover and get a high position. So in turn, they turned around and fired her. And it's just little sneaky things that they do like that really people really don't dial in and understand the depths of it down here. Another incident is incident I have is there's another white homosexual male who's also engaged with a non-black Hispanic white male. That's his lover. He also is in a higher position. He's the manager of that department. There is several blacks that work there, and they're making, basically $35,000. his Hispanic lover was not even employed. He actually came over from his country, brought him over here. He don't really know that much in depth and details as far as English. So he ends up putting him down in the company, employing him in the company, gives him $75,000 to basically answer phone lines for like 5 hours. And all of the employees, all the black employees, they are furious, but nothing they could do. They say they've been trying to figure out a document, and that's all they've been pretty much doing is just documenting. But I just wanted to give you that there's scenarios like that I've seen a lot, and by me hearing these extra two coming up, I just wanted to let you know the type of things that go down here in Florida. I don't know if it's elsewhere, but I've been noticing that a lot lately down here in Florida. That's what I just wanted to share, and I'll mute my line.
That is pretty long running in the system of white supremacy. I know for when I worked in California, it was pretty widely acknowledged that the white person who was, the highest, the CEO or president, whatever, the most powerful white person at that particular enterprise on that site, that he placed, I guess, like this young white girl, she was working there at a lower position, that he ended up marrying her. And I think it might have even been that they were having an affair, but that's not the point, that they ended up getting married. And she went from this kind of low, pauper position in the organization to being at like an executive level after they got married. Like that sort of thing is very, very common with, that's how racists using the bedroom for politics all the way around. This, I guess, is just maybe the angle is the I don't know if it's a racial component because it sounds like I'm not sure about the racial identity of the people being discussed. If this is if someone who would be classified as white or someone who would be classified as not white. I think you were saying that they were non-black. I'm not sure the rest of it, Hispanic, all that. I think sometimes that I've talked about that before, that term Hispanic. I don't use it. I think sometimes it's just a term that can be used to promote confusion. So I'm not sure if these people would be classified as white or non-white. Do you, I guess from seeing these individuals, do you think they are classified, accepted as white or not white?
They're accepted as white.
Oh, okay.
They're accepted as white.
Okay. So
I normally classify them as white, but I just use Hispanic because sometimes people, sometimes they don't know, but that's why I just classify them that way.
I see. Now I understand. But yeah, that sort of thing has long running. That's, how racists have been running the plantation for, many, 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 many decades. Just understanding how things work. But that is, good information, just being observant that sort of thing is happening on. And just to kind of keep that sort of thing in mind when they talk about, meritocracy and, you should get a job and that sort of thing, that this is the sort of environment that we live in, how people, are getting jobs, how white people are getting jobs on a regular basis. Did other folks have commentary? Other folks have commentary?
I'd like to corroborate the last caller's report. I too have witnessed situations whereby I guess suspected or I guess open anti-sexual males will actively recruit other males to kind of join their anti-sexual club, as it were, by giving them jobs. They hand jobs to one another, and these aren't low positions either. You're talking minimum $60,000 a year. I had one professor who was a victim of racism. He was a professor at Texas A&M, and he told me that all I would have to do is 20 minutes of a certain action, and that I could easily double my salary. You know, we had a long discussion about what I was making and everything, and he just brought that proposition to me. And, you know, I know for a fact that these people are definitely using money to actively recruit people and get them to compromise themselves. And I don't know. This is really disturbing, and it's something that I'm seeing, and I'm seeing amongst victims of racism. I mean, a lot. In a lot of these corporations, the only black males that you'll see that get promoted to, you know, product manager or some of these really product owner positions and whatnot. Oftentimes, they are anti-sexual, and that is a reward, I guess, for engaging that sort of. Those jobs are rewards that they get in exchange for engaging in that behavior and promoting that lifestyle. So that's something that I've noticed 100%.
The person who called in, last four digits, 9938, did you have commentary?
Good evening, Gus. Good evening, Paula. How are you doing today, sir?
Right, poorly.
I was calling because I had a situation actually happened to my wife a few days ago. It's been about 3-4 weeks, man. Happened. I live in Texas. I live in the predominantly white subdivision of Woodlands. Anybody familiar with Texas, that's predominant Native American white. A lot of white people live in the area. And I've been living in this community now for the last 2 years. And my wife and I no kids. Every time my wife comes home from work, she usually walk our dog to our subdivision. And we have a community pool that there's the walking trail by the community pool where my wife usually walks the dog. And about 3 weeks ago, my wife was walking the dog as usual, and she heard a lot of screaming coming from where the pool was. And,
is this workplace racism related? This doesn't sound workplace racism related.
It actually is, Gus.
Okay.
People kind of, you know. So my wife works in the corporate world. I've been telling my wife about workplace racism. She's been kind of workplace racism a few times, but she's very kind of naive to it. She thinks that, you know, everybody's good, you know, most people. She's been at her job now for the last 5 years and haven't really gotten a promotion already. So I've always told my wife about racism, and I'm very hands-on about racism. I listen to the show a lot, the broadcast a lot. So this situation I'm talking about has really, really affected my wife traumatically, where she's talking about racism a lot now. And that's why I brought up the situation in my neighborhood. But my wife was walking on the dog, like I was saying earlier, and it was with the white people calling my wife, nigger, get out, leave our community, you don't belong here, you live on welfare. And it was so hostile. It was so hostile towards her. And my wife went back to work, and she was telling her white coworkers about it. And all of them started saying the same thing. You know, oh my God, that is so much stuff. And they actually brought my wife some flowers. A bunch of her white coworkers brought her some flowers and a card. You know, everybody signed a card, apologizing for what some other racist people did to my wife in our subdivision. I just thought that was very, very interesting. So.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. I should have been more patient. I had to wait for the payoff. You'll have to forgive Gus's impatience.
No problem. I just thought it was so interesting. I've been with my wife for 8 years, and I've always been very, very cautious about suspect white supremacy and white supremacy. But my wife is from Spring, Texas, and she's growing up with a lot of white people, so she really doesn't see what I see. But this situation has really, really opened her eyes. I mean, and she went back to work, and she was telling her coworkers about it. And as a group, they brought some flowers, and everybody had a card. And it was apologizing. My God, that is so messed up. And one of her coworkers said, "I don't know where all this hate and racism is coming from." And I'm like, "What is she saying? Like, this been happening forever. What do you mean you doesn't know where all this is coming from?" You know what I mean? And my wife is so furious about it. She's actually talking about quitting her job. She was so upset about it. I told her that I've been telling you this for a long time. But now you really start seeing, everybody said it's that, well, I got black friends, and, that is so messed up. And
wait, why is she upset that she wants to quit her job? I thought she said they were so nice and got her flowers. Why is she upset about quitting the job about it?
Because I think now she's really starting to see what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Because for a long time, it came a time I just stopped. Because she always told me, "Oh my God, Moses, you too. Oh my God, you talk about racism all the time." And let's just have fun. Like we can't control what all these people are doing. We have to be cautious. I didn't want to move into this community. But she said, let's move over here. It's a nice suburb, and it's nice. And so now it's really, really affecting her. And I really don't know how to approach it, because I'm kind of glad that it happened, because I'm glad that she's kind of waking up, seeing what I've been talking about all these years. But at the same time, I don't want to approach it where I don't want to offend her, because I know she feels very low right now. So I don't want to keep her what she's down. So I just thought it was very interesting that all of them got together and brought her some flowers and a card, and they were so clueless about all this racism involved. And now she said one of them even started crying. "Oh my God, that is so messed up," and I just thought it was so odd, that I just thought it was kind of odd,
That, you want to talk about odd, I think that's at least the third weeping white woman that we've had cited on the program this week. It must have been lots and lots of tearful race soldiers on the job over the past few days or so. I hope folks have been able to navigate safely. But just with, I guess with your wife's situation, the thing that I find fascinating about that is that often under racist conditions, you will have the apologetic racist. You'll have the whites who will come and, can't believe this happened, and flowers and all that. That seems to be a big part of the operation as well, so that you don't think that it's all racists. I don't know if that was successful in terms of getting through, and how impactful that was on your wife, them, getting the flowers and all this other stuff, crying and everything, as though they're so upset and disturbed about all of this. But my general codified policy, even if that sort of thing happened, I probably wouldn't share it with my white coworkers, because my thinking would be, if I live around or near any of my white coworkers, it could have been you all, or your children, or your uncles, or whomever else, husbands, brothers, nephews who did it, or who did it, if it wasn't you yourself. So I wouldn't even tell them unless I'm just doing this to see how they respond, to see if I think it could have been some of them, or see if they got some information to see if I can get from them, because these are not my homies. These are not folks that I go and I chat with and we go over details. These are race soldiers. Just having that in mind. And I understand. I think you said that your wife, she's still learning, as am I, and it seems like she went from kind of not understanding why you talk about this problem so consistently to now she too is talking about this, and it having a big impact on her as a result of her being directly abused in a way that she could recognize that, oh, okay, white supremacy is being practiced against me. That happens to a lot. I guess not to deviate from workplace racism, I guess the only thing I would say is if she's receptive, great. I would take advantage and try to share, constructive information, try to share some of your views and other content so that she can develop her own understanding of some of these problems and why these things are happening to her, even why her white colleagues responded the way that they did with the flowers and everything, as long as she's interested and willing to talk about it. And then in terms of leaving the job, I mean, we all, we make our own decisions, but I would just, really try to emphasize that, you can leave the job. We could leave the subdivision or whatever else, but that would just mean going and dealing with a different set of racists, or if we're going to be in a predominantly non-white environment, a different environment that is still going to be dominated by white supremacy, but just in a different way where you don't even see the racists. Just understanding, we're not really going to be able to run from this problem. You just try to get an environment where you can do the best that you can, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, if that makes sense. Other folks, if you have a hand up, appreciate you sharing the details. That is why I cannot think of a time, even for my birthday, I cannot think of a time of white people getting together and, we're going to buy gifts and a cake or a car. I cannot think of that ever happening with white people on any job I've ever been on in my life. Do we have other folks who dialed in who had either commentary on what they just heard or their own situation they wanted to share?
Yeah, thanks for that insight, Gus. I really appreciate it. But I'm kind of glad that it happened. I'm kind of glad that it happened because now my wife and I are really, really becoming more codified about racism. I've been codified for as long as I can remember. I'm still learning as well. But a good friend of mine and I was just talking about it. We were talking about the show, and I just turned him on to the broadcast. And we were just talking about it. I just thought I'd call in to add, to give you this scenario. I just thought it was so amazing that the day that she told him, I mean, they had flowers, gifts. I mean, it was just so apologetic. And I'm like, well, why are they so apologetic about it? And she was like, yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Like, I came to work, there was a flower in my office, and they had cards. Everybody had signed a card, and she was crying. And I just thought it was really odd. I'm like, I'm saying, that's not odd. That's racism. I thought that they was practicing racism by doing that. That's what I thought. I thought they was practicing racism just by being so apologetic to my wife about something that had nothing to do with it. I thought that was very, very odd. And I thought it was practicing racism. Absolutely.
And the phoniness of it all, the crying, really, a white person crying about racism. I mean, that is, that is about as tacky as it gets, in my opinion, especially in the context of the work, man. Like, we got work to do, man. Go staple some papers. You got photocopies, something like, come on, chop. Let's get back on task. Like, that's just ridiculous. And racist, using the correct term. That is absolutely active racism, white supremacy. I agree. Other folks have commentary? Suggestions, what they've heard, or their own situation they want to touch on? I think our caller that was sharing the situation where I guess maybe you can look at it as the serendipitous moment where his wife was abused and then she became more codified, more focused on white supremacy, racism. There's a little bit of background noise on your line. I muted it, but I'll unmute it. It's intermittent, but I'll hear it and then I'll hear it for a little bit and then it goes away. I'll hear it a little bit, then it goes away. Other folks have commentary they wanted to share? Folks satisfied? I don't know, was that Stacy? Stacy in London, did you have a commentary you wanted to get in?
Yeah, that's just to say on the last caller. I guess his wife hopefully won't leave the job if it's working for her financially, but I guess she's in a place where the realization that she's working around some very devilish, racist people, you know, you can almost develop an element of contempt. And they obviously have had her confused for a while, and the calculated nature in which they want to keep her confused by going out and buying flowers. I mean, there's you know, it's slightly amusing in the sense that it's so ridiculous, the behaviour. Why would they be buying her flowers unless they felt guilty? And clearly they don't. But yeah, I think, you know, just she'll work through that phase where she realises that people who she probably had let her guard down with, you know, she basically, you know, puts them in that in a less emotional place where she's not seeing them as friends or anything else, but just knowing exactly who they are now and having that clarity. I did want to thank the person who commented about getting outside help, and just to say I am. But yeah, that's really useful, and I think it would be, you know, the group, establishing a group where people can share some of the sort of HR and legal lessons would be really useful. I mean, I know I work in the UK, so I live and work in the UK, but I do think that, as has been shown, is that there are things which are as useful to know, whether you're in the UK or in America. Thus, I wanted to ask if there has been a show that has focused on, it's related to that last point about unions and how they operate, really, because I have also been in a situation where I do think sometimes there is a conflict of interest, and you know, it's just interesting to know how many times, or to hear that people have, where they've thought that they've had legal advice, that in fact their legal advice or the union is actually working against them. So I was just wondering if there was a program that had covered that issue or not.
We've not done a broadcast focusing on unions specifically. I think that would be a good subject matter. That, at least from what, you know, people have written in over the time we focused on workplace racism, it seems we have a significant number of listeners who have some experience, if they're not even, you know, currently a member of a workplace union. So I think we do have some listeners who would appreciate that.
Okay. One last thing to share. It was again another. Two things actually. I think a couple of months ago I did talk about how I had been asked to share my personal mobile phone number. Sorry, can you hear me, Gus?
I remember. I remember, yes.
Okay. And I'd asked for the policy, and from the head of governance, and just to say, it was never a case that I was confused about whether or not I needed to give my mobile number. But I wanted to I'd searched on the internet for the most up-to-date policy, and I knew, I couldn't find anything that had been covered, and it was just a way of me actually getting evidence rather than anything else. Because in the past I had a mobile phone which work paid for. They decided to take it away, which is their prerogative, but what they're not going to be doing is calling me on my personal number from there on in. So that was a few years ago. It wasn't necessarily in this current role. So when this situation comes up every year where they want me to hand over my personal mobile phone details, I'm not doing it, and certainly not to people who are not even part of the organisation. So I'd raised it with the head of governance in March. I did have a meeting with him, and he said he was going to follow up and provide me with the information. He knew there were obviously HR-related matters, so I think he was being cautious. I chased him again towards the end of March. I chased him in April a couple of times. I chased him in May. And then I chased him again last week. And finally, I think he got the message that I wasn't going to go away, because I did it off the back of the same email chain. So last week he did actually give me a response in writing, and links to the most up-to-date pages on the internet, because sometimes as well the way that things are saved, it's not in necessarily one place, or you have to click through and so I also just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything, but he gave me a comprehensive email, which is that it just gave me the evidence that I knew anyway, which was that they have no business asking me for my personal, to hand over my personal details to anyone, whether it's internal or not, but I just wanted it in writing from the head of government. The other tacky thing to happen last week was, again, relating to my mobile phone. For some reason I had I did have an alarm on my mobile, but ordinarily I don't leave my phone lying around on my desk, unless there's a good reason for me to do so. And it's usually on silent, but I made a mistake a couple of weeks ago to leave it on the desk unintentionally, and also it wasn't on silent, and I was trying to get it fit, so I used to put a reminder in my phone, because I can end up using the lift a lot or just sitting at my desk all day long, so I put a reminder in my phone for me to go to use the stairs, basically get up from my desk and just go and do some exercise. I'd left the phone on, so the alarm went off and I wasn't at my desk for about 5 minutes or so. So the alarm was going off, I didn't hear it, and then it was only when someone told me, "Oh, your alarm is going off," I went and picked up the phone and obviously ended the alarm. Or I think at that point it shut itself off anyway. So last week, Friday, again, I wasn't at my desk. I had ended up taking all the alarms off my phone anyway, because I just didn't want that situation to happen again. But for some reason, I think I had an appointment on the Saturday that put an alarm in my phone to remind me, but I made a mistake, I think, and I had put it in on the wrong day. But my phone was in my bag anyway, and I was away from my desk, but I was only a couple of desks away speaking to somebody. But because of the way the office is situated, I don't think people who in my team realised that I wasn't actually that far away. So I was speaking to somebody, and all of a sudden I heard my alarm going off. And so I stopped my conversation. I said, "Oh, is that my alarm?" And as I turned, I saw somebody at my desk searching in my bag to get my mobile phone out. And I thought, what the hell? So I walked up to the desk and said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Your phone's going off." I said, "Are you actually in my bag?" And she said, "Oh, well," and I was, it took all of my patience not to drag her across the floor, quite frankly. And so I just said to her, "No," but that no was such a stern no. And I just left it at that, and I took my phone and I said, it wasn't actually ringing for that long, because obviously where I was. And I said, at no point, it's an alarm, and it wasn't going off for that long. And I just took my phone and just went away and went back to the person that I was speaking to, just to calm down. But the audacity of actually thinking that she could go into my bag, and all that was just to create some kind of scenario where it looked as if, my phone was causing so much noise in the office and whatever. And I think later on that day she came back and she apologised, because I think she actually realised she went too far. At no point do you have any authority to put yourself in my bag. That's my last update, Gus. But yeah, just on the mobile phone policy. It took, I guess that's 4 months to get a response from the head of governance, and he's been around in the office. He's just obviously part of how they collude when they don't want to hold on to information, release information, because I'm sure he's probably colluding with my head of team. But there becomes a point where he becomes the problem, because I wasn't going to actually let it go. And there's a nice long audit trail of me requesting the information from him. I'll move my line, Gus.
Wow. That is quite a bit. I remember when you shared with us about them trying to get your mobile number, your private mobile number. And I think you had said before, I think the policy was something that if, it was that important or what have you, that they were to provide you a phone and mobile phone that is the job phone that they could contact you on. And I think everybody should know about that. I know I've had jobs before where that's a part of the job where where they might have to contact you off hours, outside of work hours, and that sort of thing. I would critically look at that policy and procedure about disclosure of your mobile phone or any other private information. I would closely scrutinize and maybe even make sure to ask questions about that when you go through the training procedure when you're being hired, or if they have any sort. I know sometimes they have like refresher courses to go over the manual policy and procedure and that sort of thing. I would, make sure that you have crystal understanding, clarification about that particular part of the policy if you have to give up that information. Wow, it's a lot. We got a lot of great information, or just different anecdotes, different things from Stacy during the course of the broadcast there. Other folks who dialed in as well, since we are kind of winding down. The person who dialed in 0748, you had commentary to share? Hand should be up. Line should be open.
Yes, sir. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Greetings to Gus, the host, the listeners and callers. I just had a few anecdotes myself. The first being, this one happened a little while ago. I've been meaning to share this one. There was this black male customer that came in, and like I know I mentioned about the thing about gender, name changes and people changing their names to, I guess, names that may sound like it would be a female, and a female changing their name to something that may sound like it would be classified as a male name. It was a black male that came in, and my white female or white woman coworker, really, she said that he was she called him ma'am, like, as she was addressing a female. So I apparently got it correct, and I addressed him as sir. So she walked away, and he appeared to have been felt like he was insulted. So I understood that. I was processing his copies, and he was saying, "Oh man, like, how would you feel if someone called you a ma'am?" So I didn't really catch it at first. I was like, "Man, what is he saying?" Then I thought about it, and she did address him as man, like a black male, like thought he was a female, I guess. I guess how she perceived him. That was the first pretty much incident, because he was getting, I guess, a name change document. We don't really be questioning people about why they get what they get. They have the right to get whatever documents they want. The second one was, we had another black male customer that came in, and he had I think it was his grandfather with him, and he was trying to see, how he could get the rights to some type of property or get some kind of document that states that he had property to some kind of land, I guess. And there was this suspected race holder that apparently is living on a piece of his land where he can't really get to it. He put up some kind of fence to it, and he told me personally that, I think it's a tendency amongst white and non-white people, to kind of speak in like a whispering tone. Like, he's called me out of my name. He's called me all types of ends and this and that. So, I already know what that means when someone tells you that. So, he called the guy racist. So I ended up helping him find what he was looking for. And apparently the law enforcement officers, the sheriff department, went out to this specified white guy, and the guy got very, angry, hostile, and poisonous, and they were serving them some kind of warrant or something they brought them. I guess it was the documented proof, okay, that I printed out that, hey, this is their property. You know, they are able to come and go as they please. And the guy balled it up and threw it. The white guy balled it up and threw it on the ground. At least that's what was reported to me, because they came back the next day. So that was another one. I have two more left. This third one is the black female. Like I told you that she got into it. I don't know if it was last week or the week before with her white supervisor, a white female supervisor, and she set up a meeting last Friday, I guess, to talk to the white woman that's, I guess, the head person in charge or whatever, the head white person in charge in that area. And she was saying, how this person has been real malicious. This white woman has been real malicious and very rude towards her during work hours. And she was just saying, a lot of people, white and non-white, have complained about this woman. And, her response, now it was interesting. She said that she was doing a lot of the talking, basically. And the white woman was just saying, no, I'm working on it. And that sounds very alarming to me, when they're using words. I'm working on it, like short responses. And I guess she was just in there to listen to her, I guess, vent. So I guess this person is supposed to be, I guess she got talked to as well. So, I guess they had a white conversation, these two white women. So I guess they've been supposedly working together more constructively, but only time will tell, because another white woman that's in charge, like, I was talking to this black female, so I was about to walk off. She signaled to me that this woman was coming, it was very quick. So, as I'm walking off, this lady addresses her as Miss. She said Miss and then her name. So I thought that was very peculiar, because, she don't say that to nobody else. Like, she don't address that to white people or non-white. She said Miss, and then it was a sneaky, conniving smile, on her face. So I just felt like that was racism being practiced. So that was the third. The fourth one is, it was just something real quick. I thought it was real interesting, and I thought it was codified too. Like, they was starting to do this fitness thing, I guess, amongst the people at work. But, I don't plan on participating because I try to do my own thing. I guess they have to pay like $5 or $10. So, I asked them, she says, oh, well, you just came back from vacation. I said, yeah, I took a couple of days off. So I was like, how's it been going around here? So she says, oh, everything's okay. She says, we've been doing this fitness challenge. And, if you want to join, it's about $5 or $10 or something like that. I said, oh, well, that's constructive. And, I asked them one question. I said, so does this mean y'all going to be eating and having these potlucks every month? So, she kind of stopped, and she looked at me, and then she started laughing. She started laughing, like it was logical, and she was like, you know what, you're right. I guess we're going to have to stop doing all this eating. So, we just broke contact, and I went back to my desk. And that's all I have right now.
Great job asking questions consistently. I found that is the best policy in most situations. Just asking questions will generally take things where they need to go, and will generally, it's difficult. It's been my experience. It most of the time, not always, but most of the time, you will be safe. It's generally, you will not get in trouble for asking questions, although sometimes that is not so. But wow, a lot of great anecdotes from that one as well. I suspect that probably was a deliberate act. The tacky white woman who called the black male ma'am at the window or what have you, I guess, when he was coming to get his service or documents or whatever it was, probably was done intentionally. That seems like a type of thing racists engage in on a regular basis. Contempt for gender, I think Mr. Fuller's term. But yeah, the black female also who's been, I guess, having the difficulties on the job and trying to get some sort of resolution, we shall see. I guess we can get the update on how all of that proceeds. Yeah, stay tuned. I would not expect any sort of improvement for her or any other victims of racism. Other folks have commentary. If you had other comments on what you've heard from folks who shared, or if you had your own situation you wanted to get in before we get ready to wrap things up, feel free. Last few moments if folks had anything they wanted to get in. Folks satisfied? Any other comments folks wanted to make sure they get in?
Again, Gus, thanks for taking my my call tonight. I really appreciate the insight. I'm glad I was able to share my experience based on my wife's experience. And thank you so much for the constructive dialogue, and I'm really excited. Hopefully, I can use some information that you shared tonight to pass it on to my wife. The next show we both would definitely call it. I would have her call and give her experience about her co-workers to action about her racist experience that she had.
Right on. I would appreciate hearing from your wife about that. I was even thinking of asking her why exactly did she tell these white women what happened to her coworkers, if they're white women or whatever it is. But just why did she tell them about this incident? But yeah, that would be great if she wants to share about it, reflect on it.
I don't think she told them. I think she told there's another aspect, a girl who works in her office. I think she told her, and she told the other manager who's a Caucasian, and she came and asked my wife about it. My wife shared the experience that happened, and I think that's when she got quite emotional and got the flowers and all that. So I think that's what happened.
I see that. Okay, now I understand. Okay, so she didn't tell them, and the white women just took it from there once they got all the gossip from.
Once they got the gossip, they became quite emotional.
Wow.
Quite apologetic about. And I really think that was. I really thought that them buying her flowers was worse than than anybody calling her a nigger. I really thought that. I thought that was the worst kind of racism. That subliminal, just that really sneaky, and especially for victims of racism. That's the kind of racism that really are really not conscious about. I thought that was worse than somebody calling her a nigger. I thought that was worse, actually.
No, Minister Malcolm said pretty consistently he would prefer the wolf than the fox. That way everybody knows what the deal is, as opposed to being all deceptive. Master deceivers. The white women, I guess, have been the feature element for a lot of this broadcast. Seems like a lot of people have been having difficulties on the job with a variety of white women. But yeah, this for sure, coming bearing gifts and tears no less, as though they are really concerned and definitely not racist. Yeah, that is a major weapon in terms of confounding our understanding about what it means to be white and what racism is, how it works, the tackiness of it all. I hope your wife understands. I guess we can talk to her about that if she gives us a jingle down the road.
Definitely.
Did other folks, anything else folks want to get in before we conclude? Anything else folks want to make sure they get in?
Gus?
Yes, ma'am. Stacy in London.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with the caller, actually, and the clarification that his wife didn't actually speak to them. They heard it secondhand. and they went out of their way to get flowers, and as you say, burst into tears. That's extra devilish behaviour, and well worth avoiding as much as possible, if you ask me. But really, really, really devilish behaviour. I'm mute my line.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, that sort of thing. And I think that's they understand the power in terms of why they engage in those sort of activities. I compared the same thing, if folks recall, when they executed Troy Davis. That was 2011. That was about a month after Rudy Ebanks was on the program for Almost British. When they executed him, there were a whole lot of white people, Amy Goodman amongst them, who were rolling around in the mud down in Georgia and wailing and crying and, oh, we love Troy Davis and he didn't deserve to be executed. They do that sort of thing on a regular basis. When they didn't indict Michael Brown Jr., there were tons of white. Even up here in Seattle, Macklemore was out there rolling around in the street, throwing eggs and stuff. Oh, this is an injustice. They are great at that sort of thing. And again, they understand, hey, this also helps strengthen the system of white supremacy when non-white people think that there are good whites. Some of us are not racist, and we are there to support you against those no good, dirty, racist white people who are not us. Yeah, right. I will assume folks are good. Anything else folks need to get in? Folks satisfied?
Can I hear it?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, if you're at the job and there's anybody new coming in, if it's somebody that's black, you might want to help them out. But if it's a non-black person, try to avoid training them. If you can get out of it, just try to avoid it. Because I noticed a lot that blacks, we train everybody else. And instead of us getting the position, and then the person we train turn right back around and fire the person that trained them because they see them as a threat. And you'll be out of a job just that quick. I've seen it happen before plenty of times, so I just wanted to add that in.
Mm-hmm. That's almost a cliche under the system of white supremacy, I think, where the black person ends up training the very unqualified white person who is going to take their job or become their manager or supervisor or whatever it is. But absolutely, that's standard under the system. And the reaching out to help, the other black people. I think we have a lot of listeners who have talked about, and if they're following up, they have talked about doing as much as they can to share information, racism related or work related or both, with other black people on the job. So it seems like a lot of people, they are practicing black self-respect, trying to help out other black folks that they work with. I know the people out there, if it's anything I can do, it was talked about if there are black people who listen to the C.O.W.S, who have some HR experience, and you all want to network to kind of share information that might be helpful for black people on the job, that would be great. If there's anything I can do to help facilitate that, let me know. I will chip in. I know I had a black female in the UK. She contacted me sometime within the last 10 days. It was this month. And she wanted to talk to Stacy. She says she listens to workplace racism, and she's trying to she was thinking about starting a network for black females in England. And she was hearing some of the information that Stacy was talking about on the program previously, talking about her staffing network and black staffing network. And she wanted to reach out and communicate with her. So that is grand. That is grand. Not spectating. Try and do as much as you can with constructive information to help solve this problem. This stuff has been going on for a long time, and black people have been suffering, and I mean suffering mightily on jobs for decades. So anything that we can do to help mitigate that and put ourselves in a better position tactically, strategically, to neutralize some of the attacks against us, let's do it, and ASAP. We'll be here tomorrow for our third study session. Gil Scott Heron, The Last Holiday, a memoir, great read so far. Him talking about his school bouts with racism, which is pretty much workplace racism, but that's a lot of where he's at in the book. But that'll be same time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We'll be here Saturday, compensatory call-in, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We'll review events, news, what's gone down the last 7 days. Dr. Tommy Curry will be here on Tuesday. We'll review his new book, The Man Not, as well as the personal white supremacist attacks that he's been dealing with, where his character has been maligned. He was attacked. They accused him. They dug up some podcast interview he did from 2012. It was not on the cows, and comments that he was making about Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, and he was threatened. His family was threatened. It was really nasty. Talk about workplace racism. Really nasty incident all the way around, but we'll talk to him about that as well. That's Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you have questions, gripes, you can't find something in the archives, you have a guest suggestion, untiljustice@gmail.com. untiljustice@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hope it was a constructive investment of your Thursday evening. I will state again, sobriety would be best, particularly under the system of white supremacy, even in the summertime. It's warm, it's great. It was a lovely day in Seattle today, but man, I do not think being out and about under the influence is going to put you in a better position. An enforcement officer crept up on Gus T this week, and I was thinking, oh man, if I had been intoxicated, that could have been way worse because I was totally stunned, caught off guard by this whole situation and how it unfolded. But man, war is being waged against us at all times. So just keep that in mind. I think having your brain computer functioning at the highest possible capacity, I think that would be in our best interest so that we can make phenomenal decisions. You never know, and this week made that very clear for me. You never know when you might be faced with an armed race soldier, badge or no, and you might have to make life-saving decisions immediately. I think being sober would help out in those crucial moments. That said, Creator, we ask that you help us remain patient with other black people, victims of white supremacy. We ask that you help us remain patient with ourselves. Remind us to demonstrate the highest levels of black self-respect at all times, in all places, each and every time we are in contact with another black person. It has been time. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. C.O.W.S signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed. I'm a victim, brother. Problem. You're a victim. I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning. Shut up. The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.